Right, now let's bring in Moremi Mwangi, who has been keeping tabs on this developing story. I beg your pardon for that. Moremi, good morning. And where is this story set to go next? Because we are seeing a lot of political intrigues, happening. Now we're seeing, looks like ODM does not want Murkomen to get involved in their political party's affair.
Well, good morning, Brenda. The past 2 days have been quite interesting. Letters flying from Murkomen's law firm to Orange House and from Orange House back. Remember, even just as late as 3 or 4 yesterday, there was another letter that Murkomen did to ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, terming the earlier response of the party SG to Murkomen's petition on behalf of Suleiman Dori and Aisha Jumwa as a condescending attitude in terms of how the party had taken the petition that he had presented there. Remember, Sifuna was on record saying that Murkomen needs to take time to familiarize himself with the constitution of the ODM party, because in his argument, that petition that had been filed by Murkomen on behalf of the two legislators was premature. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to talk to the two men, and it appears a fierce political clash is looming, because the next order of business for ODM is to convene the National Governing Council, which brings together not only all the elected parliamentary members of the ODM parliamentary group, as well as the governors, the deputy governors, and even the majority and minority leaders of county assemblies, but also ODM party leader Raila Odinga, and therein lies what could potentially be the catch from the side of Dori and Jumwa, because they will be seeking audience with that gathering and will be using Murkomen as their advocate to petition for their case. Remember, ODM has stated that the hearing having been concluded at the disciplinary committee stage, that they need not make further appearance with their advocates before the NGC. But it appears that's what the two legislators are looking up to, and therefore there will be likely political implications. Remember, Murkomen is a key right-hand man and a key political strategist, a member of the Deputy President William Ruto think tank on his 2022 presidential ambitions. And lately, there has been a fierce face-off between the supporters of the Deputy President as well as those of opposition leader Raila Odinga with regard to the 2022 presidential race in the aftermath of Odinga's decision to cooperate with Ruto's boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, on the 9th of March last year. And therefore, the appearance of Murkomen there to petition for the two legislators whose ejection from the party is premised on their decision to rally behind Ruto's 2022 campaigns is therefore going to be an interesting time should Raila be in that gathering with Murkomen as the advocate for the two legislators. Brenda.
Moremi, just before I bring in Mark Bichach, who's already in the studio, just to also, give us his thought about this. So why do you think Aisha Jumwa and Suleiman Dori settled on Murkomen, yet Murkomen is from another party? Of course, he's a lawyer, he's an advocate, and they decided to go for an advocate who is in another political party to represent them in the political party.
Well, previously they have been represented by lawyer Kioko Kilukumi, but this whole discussion, despite the parameters of law upon which a final verdict will be arrived at, is a political question also, because it's also a question of political ideology and whom they support and whether they have gone against the ideals of the ODM party, because the presumption of the ODM party, with the declarations that they have made in several ODM rallies at the coast, is that they appear to be campaigning for William Ruto, who could potentially be a competitor against any presidential candidate that the ODM party picks. Remember, for the past 3 or 4 general elections from 2007 to 2013 and 2017, the 3 general elections, ODM has had a presidential candidate, and therefore the presumption of key ODM headliners is that in 2022 they will be fielding a candidate, and having not made a decision on who will be their flag bearer, then it is against the ideals of the party for the two coastal legislators to appear to be campaigning for William Ruto, whose presidential ambitions are hinged on a different political party, the Jubilee Party, where he deputizes President Uhuru Kenyatta as the party leader. And therefore, it is a discussion that besides the talk of what laws they have violated in terms of the ODM party constitution as well as the Political Parties Act, is also a question of the likely political implications of whatever verdict the National Governing Council arrives at, which is whether they are going to adopt the decision from the Executive Committee to eject the two, or if they are going to spare them and therefore have them retain their parliamentary seats. Brenda.
All right, thank you so much, Murimi Mwangi, for that. And now joining us in a studio, just to put even more perspective in this story, is a political analyst, none other than Mark Bichachi. And, you know, when this whole issue of Suleiman Dori and Aisha Jumwa began, they appeared like the gloves were off, like, bring it on, we're ready to go for by-election. But now, things seem, they've turned the table. They're like, you cannot just remove us from ODM party.
Well, it's because, you know, the thing is, they had a lot of posturing. That's what that's called. So the posturing was basically because this is something that has never gotten to this stage in recent history. And therefore, they quickly realized that the tables are not as they seemed, the cards are not as they seemed for them in ODM. But also, let's also remember that what has been popularly known as Team Tanga Tanga has almost shut down operations. If you saw the letter from the deputy president's spokesperson that no one should campaign on behalf of the deputy president. So you see, on both sides, they realize that things have been pulled off. So the carpet has been pulled from under their feet, and now they find themselves in the situation where they need to survive. The second thing is they were hoping that they would have enough time to decampaign ODM so that they're popular enough to stand by themselves. But as things stand now today in the ground, that's not the case. But what is curious to me is what a lawyer in Jubilee would have interest in two parliamentarians in ODM. That is a lot, speaks a lot. Why would you want someone to remain in ODM? It goes against the tenets of any political party, because a political party is always interested in bringing people on board. That's why they exist.
Are we likely to see the ODM party now handling this matter as now taking the political shape instead of party disciplinary? Because Aisha Jumwa and Suleiman Dori seem to have now decided to get an advocate who's from a different political party.
Yeah, definitely. The moment the name Murkomen shows up on the list of people representing Jumwa and Dori, then definitely it becomes a political battle, because ODM must ask itself that what is Murkomen's interest in making sure Dori remains in ODM? Ideally, what should happen is Murkomen, as a member of Jubilee, should be saying, please quit ODM and come on our side and run for that. So that tells you that if ODM allows for Jumwa and Dori to stay, then they will have opened the gates of Troy and let the Trojan horse get in, and then they shall be eaten from within.
All right. And we're still having you here, Mark Bichachi. We're still having Mark Bichachi in our studio. Just talk to us about the new president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, that is Felix Tshisekedi, I got it right, who arrived in the country yesterday on Wednesday for the second part of his maiden three-nation tour, his first official visit since he was elected as the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, sources have also told KTN that Tshisekedi was scheduled for talks with President Uhuru Kenyatta, although the State House has kept Tshisekedi's itinerary away from the press. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta was the only head of state who attended the inauguration of the head of state to attend the Congolese president's inauguration that happened on the 24th of January. And of course, he replaces Joseph Kabila. Tshisekedi was in Angola before coming to Nairobi, and will be winding up his tour in the Central African Republic. His first tour in Kenya after being, inaugurated as the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But what do you expect from his visit?
Well, there are two things that you should expect. One, for the public, of course, is closer trade ties with the Congo. We know that a lot of goods going to the Congo pass through Kenya. We know a lot of Congolese people do business in Kenya and vice versa. So we expect those ties to be strengthened. We also remember that Kabila, the predecessor to Tshisekedi, came to Kenya to complain. That's the last interaction between a Kenyan president and a Congolese president. So you can see that that Uhuru Kenyatta has taken the opportunity to, number one, when he was the only head of state there, the message was clear that I am willing to be your friend and I'm willing to give you legitimacy, because Tshisekedi is facing the issue of legitimacy, because there's a lot of people who say that he's a Kabila project, that he is a frontman for Kabila, so he needs that credibility internationally. But what is interesting is that Kabila had strained relations with Nairobi, and he had strained relationships with Rwanda and places like that. And Tshisekedi's first actions as president is to move out of that mold and begin to talk with Nairobi and begin to talk with the Central African Republic and Angola, who are not the traditional partners of the Congo. Now that tells me that there is an opportunity which our president has seen, and I must commend him for it. You see what happens in the West. The West is not interested in Venezuela because they like Venezuelans. They're interested in Venezuela because Venezuela has a lot of oil. Now, similarly, we as Kenyans need to be interested in the Congo because the Congo has a lot of gold.
A lot of gold.
Yes, that's who you need as a friend.
Okay, but we also have seen President Uhuru Kenyatta assuring, his counterpart that Kenya will help in stabilizing Congo after this hotly contested election. So how are we going to do that as a nation?
Well, when Kenya catches a cold, Zimbabwe catches it too, Congo catches it too, and that's what happens. We saw Raila Odinga saw himself in, you saw what happened in Venezuela. Yeah. So we have the experience of leading in trends. If you remember how we handle post-election violence has now become a standard as to how African peace treaties are negotiated. And then let's not forget that Tshisekedi is a good friend of Raila Odinga. And therefore, you can see that the benefits of the handshake and the learnings of President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga can be shared with Tshisekedi in the sense of being able to stabilize his country by reaching across the divide and saying, you know what, the elections are over, we can bury the hatchet, and for the sake of our nation, we can work together. So Kenya has a lot to show. That the experiment that was the government of national unity actually worked pretty well for this country. So yes, we have that experience that we can share. And then on the other side, let's not forget, we are all about interests. So if we can get some of that Congolese gold, I'm sure our republic will not be complaining.
Okay, just apart from getting that Congolese gold, what other bilateral trade are we talking about with Congo?
Well, I already mentioned the transportation. So because of Congo's infrastructure problems, it's actually easier for some of the goods to come through Kenya. So you have a lot of lorries that go through Kenya. So you can imagine if they just discuss the ease of movement of goods, how much that will boost business. Then let's not forget that Congo also has a lot of lumber, a lot of natural resources, a lot of opportunities also for Kenyans to go and work there and consult there, sort of like what we did for Botswana when it was starting. So there's a lot of opportunity in a stable Congo, not just for the goods that Kenya helps to transport, but also for the services, because Kenya is one of those countries that has a huge professional population, a huge trained population, and we've exported these populations to countries like Botswana in the past, countries like Namibia in the past. So if Congo is stabilizing, then why not be the first out of the gate? And we've done this with South Sudan as well.
Okay, let's bring this conversation to an end. And of course, what comes into my mind is in terms of the fight against drugs.
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of concern in terms of some Congolese being arrested, in terms of drug trafficking. Yes. Are we likely to see these two heads of state actually have a serious and deep discussion about this?
Well, of course there'll be a discussion. But remember, the drug trade is weird in the sense that it crosses borders in ways that are very interesting. That the countries, African countries, for example, are not typically drug destinations. They are routes towards the European and American African market, and they're only used to repackage the drugs. So there are many issues that need to be addressed there, and they will be addressed, especially if you notice how the government of Kenya has been cooperating with the West in terms of the fight against corruption. So definitely there'll be a lot more information shared between the countries, and then of course I expect to see some results from that.
We expect to see some results from that. Thank you so much, Mark Bicheche, political analyst, talking to us about the visit by Democratic Republic of Congo President, that is Felix Tshisekedi. Now, we need to take another short commercial break. When we come back, but of course we're still keeping an eye on the developing story at the Labor Relations Court in Kisumu, where the County Assembly Speaker was supposed to know her fate today. And of course, as you can see on your screen, our reporter Kevin Ogutu is on standby just to give us the latest update as to what transpired inside the courtroom. All that after the short commercial break.